Good morning, everyone. So wonderful to be here with you today. We've had a nice dusting of snow over here in coastal Virginia. So the whole of Gloucester area, Yorktown, all around are under the presence of snow, which doesn't come to us very often. So it's like a winter wonderland. And we're happy to see it. All the kids are just loving it. So, yay, us. So it's great to be here with you today. Thank you for being here with me. So let me know if you're out there. Give me a thumbs up or send me a hello. It's just nice to know that you're out there. So let's begin today, as we do, with our breathing exercise, which is in through the nose, hold, out through the mouth, in through the nose, hold, out through the mouth. Continue. In through the nose, hold, out through the mouth. Excuse me. Mm. Well, open your eyes if you had them closed. I can promise you I'm back. That was a nice sneeze. The presence, the presence. It is a great snowy morning, Shireen. Thanks for being here. As we each individually choose to acknowledge ourselves as the divine presence of all that is, as we choose to acknowledge that the essence of each of our being is that very creative force, that very creative presence that has made everything. Everything is, and I am everything. Everything is in me. It's all together. It's all the same. It's all the same in here, and it's all the same out there. Now, simply asking my intellect to wrap itself around the possibility of that is in itself a huge ask because my intellect is conditioned to see it all in a limited, disconnected presence. Yet, I say to you, it is all one experience. It manifests in multiple facets. It's like the Hope Diamond, for instance. The Hope Diamond is one absolutely magnificent piece, yet it has multiple facets all over it. And so each one of those facets catches the light independently and reflects that light independently. And then all of those independent facets come together to express the light through the Hope Diamond as one glistening, glimmering, shining entity. I am the same as that. You are the same as that. Yet it requires each of us individually to acknowledge it within ourselves so as to open the possibility for understanding and contact. In the story, in one of the biblical stories, when Christ is working with one of the sick people, Christ says to the sick person, "Pick up your bed and move. Pick up and go. You are well." Now, the person had been unable to walk for however long, and so had to be motivated to move because left to that person's own agenda, which is, I am unable to walk, walking would not have happened. Yet, pick up your bed and walk was the motivation to try something different and pick up the bedding and walk. Hi, Mary Lee. Very, very, very important. We must choose to step outside of conventional understanding. We must choose to look at conventional teaching as though there's a possibility something else, at the very least, a possibility that something else is operational and that the conventional understanding is not so. That's a huge move. Simply that. One could argue that it is a whole lifetime's experience to simply choose to question conventional understanding. To simply question conventional understanding. To simply question the conventional idea that is present in the United States of America generally, that we have one life to live, we do our best to live it within a certain set of principles and guidelines, and if we do that well, then we may have an opportunity to become present in heaven where God is. If we don't do it well, then heaven is not available to us. That is conventional thought. That's what the general population who have any concern at all with the teaching believe. Now, needless to say, we are waking up. 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 We are becoming aware more and more and more. If we look at I'm 68 years old. So if I look at people who are 20 years old, 25 years old, 30 years old and observe how they perceive the world in which they live, I realize that how they have been raised and understand this conventional understanding is different than me. Yet, there is still the basic idea 20 years old, 25 years old, 30 years old. I still hear those people say in a confronting situation, God help me, Jesus save me, which lets me know that deep down in their conditioning is still the fundamental idea that something outside is going to rush in and create salvation for the individual. What I know is so today, what I know is real today, is that there's nothing already wrong here anyway. Nothing already wrong. There is nothing to be saved from. There is nothing to be saved from. So a conventional idea looks at the world around, sees somebody, sees poverty present, and says, this isn't right. It sounds very harsh, but each person is of the same God that I am, that you are. Each of us are eternal. Excuse me. Each of us move from the same space. There's no beginning, there's no end. There is eternal. It takes incredible focus to simply wrap one's mind around that. From nothing to nothing, from everything to everything. There is absolutely no difference in those two statements. No thing and everything are the same thing. So, a little shift in the topic here. Last night, something became very clear to me that I hadn't thought about or wasn't present to previously. During our regular weekly Conversations with God book study, one of the participants said to me, well, Paul, remember a couple of weeks when you said so and so? And so I made an attempt to recall that, whatever that was. And the reality is that it was not there, it wasn't present. And so in the moment, I thought to myself, oh, Paul, you're getting forgetful. But as I looked deeper into that, as the evening and the night went on, I came to understand that this, this teaching that comes through me is not of my intellect. It flows through me from that divine consciousness of myself. It flows through and moves on. I know full well that when it is imperative, cancel that. I know full well that when it's appropriate and required, it will flow through again. Yet I don't think about these things that I say to you and create a script or create a guideline or create an outline as to how these messages come through. And then I think about the people that are out there in the world. I think of all the people who are out there who are quote unquote channeling. And I remember back in the early, early 80s, cancel that, back around the mid 80s, about 86 or 87, I was in Santa Fe and I was involved with a group of people, and we gathered regularly on a Tuesday night for a group channeling. And we were all convinced that around Santa Fe, New Mexico, there are a lot of galactic ships, multi-dimensional ships, and we all were convinced that we were actually being a, a vessel through which those beings were speaking. And so I had that perception of channeling as something outside of myself speaking through me to give some sort of insight or message. But today, this day, I realize that what this really is about is that which is the essential Paul, the essence of my being, which is connected to every other being of every type in every dimension all the time. And that this is the speaking that comes through. And that speaking comes through as a result of training the intellect, training the emotional body, training the ethereal body to connect to it and allow it to speak without consideration of whether or not it's a conventional statement. And so what it shows up for me today as is that it's one of the gifts, one of the telltale signs of greater connectedness by this particular intellect, by this particular emotional body to that eternal which is myself. Each of us have that capacity. We read last night in Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch. Neale asked God, well, talk to me about clairvoyance. Talk to me about being able to see what's going on. And the God character in the book spoke back, everyone, everyone is clairvoyant. Everyone is able to perceive at all levels along every potential conception of a timeline. All of that data is available to all of us all of the time. And the more each of us releases ourselves from the conditioning of the conventional reality, the more available we become to it. Each of us knows all there is to know. And what stands between the knowing of that or the realization of that and the non realization of that begins with stating it's possible. And so in the reference I made earlier about Jesus and the man, Jesus said to the man, gather up your bedding and walk. And the man had to choose to take action. Because Jesus said, gather up your bedding and walk, the man that isn't how the man got up and walked. Jesus said to the man, get up and walk. And the man considered it and said, maybe I'll try it. Maybe I'll try getting up and walking. And he did. And he walked. The same is so for each of us in every space that we get into. I know all there is to know. There is nothing to know that I do not know. I am all of that. And all of that is I am. There's no confusion except the confusion that conventional training creates so as to limit one's understanding. And that's the whole point of this three-dimensional earth plane, is for each of us of our own free will to choose to be all that is and to embrace it as myself. I am the divine presence of all that is, and all is well. And I and you are the same. We are the presence of all that is, and we can manifest all that is right here in the moment when I choose consciously to have it be so. We are free. I acknowledge you as the presence of God wherever you are. Namaste, namaste, namaste.